are you all? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Peyton, and today I'm here to talk about all things fall. I have a fall bucket list to go through, fall autumnal book recommendation to give to you, and I have my fall TBR. It's a little ambitious because I think I'm on the upward swing, getting back into reading after a pretty nasty slump, but I think I'm on the way out. I'm thinking this might be a pretty lengthy, chatty video, so grab a drink, grab a snack, and let's talk books and fall things. I'm gonna talk about my bucket list first. Oh, sorry, before we start, I did want to say I got the idea to do this type of video from Kimberly Rodriguez, her video right here, Fall Books, Activities, and Crafts. I was so inspired by it that I decided to make my own bucket list. I have a bunch of crafts and stuff lined up, so that's where this idea came from, and just combining it into my fall TBR, my fall recommendations, my bucket list, all the stuff I want to do in the fall. I just wanted to combine it into one video because I just really loved hers. Highly recommend you checking that out. I will link it down below. I love her videos so much. I made this little fall bucket list. I made one for summer. I didn't get everything done off of it, but I got some things done off of it, which I think is a success. I didn't want to go too ambitious with some of these, but these are all things I definitely really want to do in the fall season before it gets super cold here in Minnesota. I've hinted at it at a few of my past vlogs, but I'm a big baker. I love baking, especially pies, sweets, cookies, all the good stuff. So I definitely want to do that. I don't know what I'm going to make. Maybe I'll make a pie or a galette. That'd be really fun. Of course, I'm trying to film and Luke is making a bunch of noise in the kitchen. That's the first one. I want to go apple picking. The reason I say apple picking over pumpkin patch or pumpkin picking is because I do have farther down a corn maze or a fall fair where there will be an abundance of pumpkins, I'm sure, but I didn't go apple picking last year and I was really bummed about it. I feel like since I moved into this house, my neighborhood, pumpkins get annihilated by squirrels. We have the fattest squirrels probably in the state because of all the pumpkins that they just completely destroy off of people's front porches and steps. So I think I'm not gonna do that again this year because I put up work into carving pumpkins for them to just get destroyed before it's even time, and I don't want a pumpkin sitting in my house where it starts to rot. So maybe I'll do fake pumpkins, some outside decor, but I don't think I'm gonna do go to a pumpkin patch specifically to find a pumpkin this year. I'd rather go apple picking. Take a scenic drive in Minnesota, so going up north or going into Wisconsin and just seeing the leaves change, getting colder outside and just wearing layers, listening to a fall playlist. Perfect. Next I'm gonna go to a haunted house. I haven't been to one. Now that I think about it, it's actually kind of shocking because of how much I love horror movies, especially horror movies that are centered around haunts or haunted corn mazes or the Hell House movies. I love those movies. Yeah, it's been a minute since I worked at one in high school. I worked on a haunted trail in high school, free labor basically. I didn't know any better. And that was super fun, but yeah, I definitely want to go to a haunted house or a haunted tour or something, a haunt experience. I really want to do that. I love being scared. I love jump scares. I love all that stuff. Yes, corn maze and fall fair. There are a ton here in the fall, so I definitely want to do that. There's usually booths that have popcorn or candy apples or distilleries that have their fall flavored beer selection or non-alcoholic drinks too, or cider. I love that. I want to do that. This is a new one. I want to press leaves. I've never done that before. I've never pressed flowers, never pressed leaves. And I thought it would be fun to do it in the books I plan to read in the fall, ones that are leaning more fall vibes, dark academia, spooky, cold weather. I think that'd be really fun to do, and the leaves are just starting to turn, so it's perfect. It's perfect timing. Make autumn soups. I love soups. I love making soups. I think soup season for me is all year round, but there's something that hits a little differently about the fall, either butternut squash. When the weather has gotten colder the last 2 years, I've made Allison Roman's soup, the dilly bean soup. If you love dill, you like beans, boy, are you in for it. It's so good. A fall themed puzzle. I haven't found one yet that I really like. There was one New Yorker one that I did. I was ooh, this could be it, but I haven't found the perfect fall puzzle yet. I haven't found the perfect autumnal puzzle yet. Maybe I need to go to a puzzle store or something to find one. But I really want one, and I want it like low stakes, like maybe 500 pieces. That's like low commitment. I can get it done in like an afternoon listening to an audiobook, watching a fall movie. So yeah, I just need to find one. Knit a chunky beanie and a scarf. I did want my channel to have some craft elements or like fiber art element because I'm a very big knitter. I love knitting, I love crafts, but I haven't really filmed that much about it because I honestly haven't been super in the mood to do it, but I have started. So I'm not even done with the yoke yet, but I did start this sweater, which isn't very fall, but it is going to be very pretty when it's done. But I think I want to knit like I just want to make something quick. Like I feel like a chunky beanie, chunky scarf. Something I can finish in about a day, and just like a bigger, chunkier knit with like maybe some like specks of color is what I'm envisioning. I haven't found a pattern yet. So. Learn a new board game. We did get, me and Luke have so many board games. Like when we first started dating, that was a lot of what we did, was make a cocktail and play board games. That was like a lot of our first dates. And it was so fun. And I feel like we haven't done that. We played, and now I can't even think of the name of it. I'll put it right here, because it'll come to me. But we played that last year. That was really fun. But I do want to learn a new board game. I can't play Catan anymore. I can't. I get so angry. I need like a new board game to focus on in the fall. I'm a very artistic person, and I've never made fan art. Like I've made like little scribbles in my sketchbook, but I've never gone out with the purpose of making fan art. Does that make sense? I would love to make some over the garden wall fan art. I watch it every year. It is a fall staple in this house. Like I think that'd be so fun and cute, and like again, I'm not putting a ton of pressure on myself. I don't have to post it. I don't have to do anything with it, but I would love to just make like a beautiful little gouache painting or something with Wirt and Greg and George Washington. And this next one I did get specifically from Kimberly's video, but also I think it was last year that it was all over TikTok, like these ghost paintings. People would thrift like these landscape paintings and they'd make them fall, and any people in it or they'd add ghosts to it. And I was like, man, I want to do that. I never got around to doing it. So I want to do that, but also Kimberly had like these really pretty like inspirations for like ghost paintings. They're just like black and with the ghosty and like gold frames, like that are thrifted like as Halloween decor. I love that. I need some more decor. I need some more fall decor. I have pumpkins and there's a spine candle. All really cool, but I would love to have some fall artwork throughout the house during spooky season. I think that'd be really fun. Discover and make fall playlists. Growing up, or especially in high school, there's so many like songs or bands that I just associate with fall. Like Jenny Lewis, and Sufjan Stevens, I will always associate with me having my iPod Nano on the bus, just listening to like the same album, or driving in my first car, a Volvo station wagon, R.I.P. That thing was a tank. And just listening to their albums from that time period, just over and driving, and it's cold, and going to school in the morning. I hated high school, but that was like my favorite part of the day, was just being in my car, because there's nothing to do where I grew up. So just being in my car and just listening to those albums. And I'm blanking on other bands right now, but I want to curate a fall playlist, or discover some new ones. I think that'd be really great just to play on and off in the house or when I'm driving. And the last one, plant mums, or like get into my winter gardening, like start to plan for that. Like I would love to do some like tulips and like stuff that I need to do more research, because I sound like a dummy right now, because I've just had like my garden that I do every summer with tomatoes, zucchini. I had strawberries this year. That was just really great, but I've never sought out like the winter part of gardening, but I would like to get a head start on that. Once the temperature starts to drop and it's time to plant those, I want to do some research and do that. I think it'd be really fun to see them come about in the springtime. That's my autumn bucket list. I would love to know if you have one, or stuff that you really want to get into this fall, like stuff that you're like, I have to do it. It's like or if you have a tradition that you do every fall, are there recipes you love? Put it down below. I would love to know. And then we can get into my recommendations. To me, this list is more like there's a lot of weather, like cold weather. There's some dark academia, like old books, fireplaces, studying, or like just like the atmosphere of it is very fall. The time period of the book is very fall. Like some of these are spookier, scarier reads if you're into that. I have a variety of things right now for that. So get into my little stack here. The first one I have to talk about, actually the first two I'm going to talk about, are ones that I read this year and I loved, and these are probably going to be my favorites of the year, and they just have stuck out to me, and I wish I'd read them during the fall. I read them earlier this year, but they would be perfect fall reads, so I'm including them on this list. The first one is Grey Dog by Elliot Gish. This is probably the frontrunner for my favorite horror book of the year. It's excellent. Think of like The Witch, but in like the early 1900s, like that kind of vibe. If you like that movie by Robert Eggers, like I think you would really like this. I think this would actually be an excellent A24 movie. But this is about Ada Bird. It's 1901. She's a teacher, and she gets a job where she'll be posted at this very small religious little village. And the reason that she has been put there is because at her previous post there was a scandal, which you don't know right off what happened, but you know it was bad enough to incur the wrath of her father and to have her put in this place where really no one wants to work. There's a ton of woods. It's very thickly wooded, and the town is little tiny church-going town, very, very uptight. People, and anyone who's a little different definitely gets pointed out and talked about and whispered about and all that small town gossip. This is told through diary entries from Ada, and she starts to feel like something is watching her in the woods. She starts to feel like something is starting to call to her and to command her. She develops friendships with some of her neighbors, as well as like this interest in this adolescent girl who's just very strange and kind of makes her life hell. And things just start to take a turn, and it is so well executed. It is a very slow burn. It is so worth it. The payoff is so worth it. This is teeming with like female rage, so much anger, so much just like, oh man, just everything. Oh, I love this. I got this as an ARC, and then when it came out I bought a copy, and I want to reread this actually because I want to put my annotations in it. But this is excellent fall read. Takes place at like the beginning of the school year, end of summer, and then going into winter. It's very atmospheric. The story unfolds so well, and it's just gothic and like such exquisite detail. And the main character is just, oh man, I love the main character. This is great. I cannot wait to see what Elliot Gish does next. This was incredible. The next book I read, April, and that's A Study in Drowning by Ava Reid. Now, if you saw my previous video, you know I am not a fan at all of her new book, Lady Macbeth, but I really loved this. This is her YA, dark academia, fantasy-esque leaning book. I absolutely loved it. I loved it. This is about our main character, Effie, who is going to college to study architecture because she is not allowed as a woman to study writing or liberal arts because it is deemed not a good path for women. So she decides to study architecture, and this contest is unveiled about her favorite author and totally rebuilding his very famous home. Effie wins the contest, and along with her academic rival, Preston, go to this crumbling seaside manor where basically to redo the house. But as soon as they get there, they discover it is pretty much a lost cause. It is literally falling into the sea. Effie has also been haunted her entire life by these dreams of this fairy king, which the author, his most famous work, is this book that is lauded and treated as a canon in this land, and it's about the fairy king. And her whole life she has had dreams and nightmares, and it feels like the fairy king is watching her. No one believes her. And as soon as Effie and Preston get there, they start to feel like there's more to his death. There's more to his life that maybe has never been talked about. And I just love that there are these two kooky little kids just going around this crumbling manor and like going through old parchment and stories by candlelight and solving this mystery. And in Ava Reid fashion, there is a lot of trauma that is unveiled. So trigger warnings, but I just love this. I love this world. There's a sequel coming out next year as well, which I cannot wait to read. This is like, I love Juniper and Thorn, but the writing in this is like top notch, like gorgeous. This is what I like to think of as like a dark academia fall read. Next I have some classics, which just stay there. Like, classics can usually turn people off because not everyone likes to read classics, but you say that, but I think you should try out these books because it might sway your opinion. The first one I'm going to talk about is We Have Always Lived in the Castle by Shirley Jackson, and I love my edition. I got this at a bookstore in Baltimore. It was one of my luckiest finds ever. I love this book, and it's like the OG sprayed edges. This follows a very weird girl named Maricat who lives with her sister on the outskirts of this town, where the town hates them. They hate them because they believe that the older sister, not Maricat, the older sister, possibly murdered their entire family. It's so unsettling. It's very gothic. Because of what happened to their family, Maricat's like a very stunted individual. She hasn't been around a lot of people. She's very awkward. She is very damaged by what happened. She really lives inside her head, like creating charms, spells, talking to her cat, Black Cat Jonas, which is a great name for a cat, and buries these little trinkets in her yard. And she's very suspicious of anyone who is not her immediate family, which is her sister, and I forgot to mention her disabled uncle who survived what happened to their family. So with all that, they have the arrival of their cousin, who they're not very excited about, they're very suspicious about, and he starts poking his nose where it doesn't belong. It's a very short little book. It is so, I'm gonna say atmospheric so many times because that's why I picked all these books. Oh, I love how it smells because it's an old book. It's just packed with a lot of mystery and darkness, and it's so beautifully done. If you want like the OG horror, OG gothic storyteller, read Shirley Jackson. Come on, Haunting of Hill House. Where do you think all the horror you love came from? The next classic I have to recommend, and another one is like, if you like really dark, twisty thrillers, gothic thrillers, how about you take a stab at the OG, which is Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. I really like my edition. I read this years ago, and I read it in like 2 sittings. It's so immersive, it's so captivating. Oh, it's so twisty-turny, like you don't really know who to trust. It has one of the most iconic, memorable opening lines ever. Last night I dreamt I went to Modernly again, which is the mansion that portrayed in this book. This is about a young woman who marries a very wealthy widower. She's very naive, she's in her early 20s. She is working as a companion to this very rich American woman on holiday in Monte Carlo. She meets this very, very wealthy Englishman named Maxim de Winter, who is much older than her. I think he's in his 40s. He whisks her off her feet after like 2 weeks, marries her, and takes her to his mansion called Manderley. Did I say Malderley? Manderley. Who has this, like, the most evil, sinister housekeeper, Mrs. Danvers. She was devoted to Maxim's first wife, Rebecca, and apparently she had died in some accident. Miss Danvers has never really recovered from it. Apparently Maxim has, not Miss Danvers, but she constantly undermines the main character because she is not Rebecca. It's so stunningly written, it's eerie, it's a gothic mystery, and there's so much tension throughout. You will keep turning these pages. It is so good. It's chilling. I didn't expect some of the twists in this or where the narrative was going to go. It's one of my absolute favorite gothic horror books. It's one of my favorite books. I need to reread this actually. It's been so long. And this copy is so falling apart. I need to get a different copy to annotate, but this is excellent fall reading. And then I have a really fun one that I read a few years ago, and that is We Ride Upon Sticks by Quan Berry. This is so much fun. This is such a great book. It's like Heathers, but with field hockey, witchcraft. This is set in Danvers, Massachusetts, which was the site of the Salem witch trials, and follows a high school field hockey team who have this winning streak out of nowhere. And you're following each of the players on the team. It's a lot of characters, but it didn't feel that way because they are each so uniquely different and their voices are uniquely different. Like, she writes it so well. Why are they winning so much? Like, what's going on? Like, and it turns out like the team has made what they think is a deal with the devil in this notebook, and they are worshiping Emilio Estevez. There's a lot of quips with 80s iconography, like Heathers and the music, and obviously they worship Emilio Estevez to start winning all these games, and it's very, very funny. I loved all the characters so much. The plot's really clever. There are a lot of characters to follow, so yeah, it can be a little dense in places. It's a very weird, fun fall read that I highly recommend. If you like Heathers or like any 80s horror, like silly fun movies, like any John Hughes movies, like I think you'd really like this a lot. It's just really pretty book. But yeah, it can be a little dense in places, but I think it paid off towards the end. I just really liked it a lot. And the last book I have to recommend, which is probably going to be no surprise to anyone who's been on my channel for a while, that how much I love this book and the series. I discovered it around my birthday, so December of last year, but I think it is perfect for fall. It fits right in with all the books that I recommended before, and that is Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. This was my first Leigh Bardugo. This is part of the Alex Stern series, following our main character, Alex Stern, who, after a near-death experience, finds out that she is accepted into Yale. And with that, she's going to be part of Ninth House, which is responsible for keeping all the secret societies in Yale in check. Being a part of any of their nightly rituals, overseeing that to make sure nothing goes wrong with like spirits, ghosts, what have you. It's like all set on Yale's campus in the fall, and like crunching leaves, libraries, ghosts, death, Satan, hell. And I just love Alex. Alex is like such an amazing character to root for. She's such a damaged individual. Her and Darlington and Dawes, the main group at Lethe House or Ninth House. I just love all of them so much. And like the second book, Hellbent, continuation of the first book, as well as like tackling some of the events that go haywire in the first book. And I heard that Leigh Bardugo is starting to write the third one, and I hope it's amazing, and I can't wait because I love this book. Birds. Good lord. Why is it right outside my window? They're so angry. Should I wait? Shh! Hey, bird! Did I piss off the Blue Jay community? I love this book. Actually, I have so many books to read, but I just really love this. It's one of my favorite books I've ever read, and yeah, I didn't want to stop reading it. I didn't want to leave this world. Like, when Hellbent was over, I'm like, oh man, when is book 3 gonna come out? I want it so badly. I love these characters. It's so hard to leave these characters for me. And it's definitely not for everyone. It's really dark. It's a lot darker than I expected. Trigger warnings galore, but I think it's a perfect fall read if you're into dark academia, into like secret societies, into ghosts. It's just such a strong book. Those are all my recommendations. So let's get into my TBR. I think it's a little ambitious since I'm still in a reading slumpish. I'm coming out of it, I think, but I would love to read one. If not all of these books. I think you can probably tell what one is by the end pages. This is heavy. There's a mix of horror, romance, fantasy, dark academia. It's all the good shit. This is like more of what I love that I just showed you. The first book, which I just got the audiobook from the library, so I'm probably gonna read this one first. And I've not read this author. I'm a little nervous about it because it seems like mostly his writing style is what turns people off, not so much his stories. So we'll see. And I'm hoping it'll work for me because it sounds like he's a big lover of 80s horror and slashers like I am. And he infuses a lot of that into his stories and his characters. So we'll see. But My Heart is a Chainsaw by Stephen Graham Jones. This is the first book in the Indian Lake series. This follows hardcore 80s horror fan, high school senior Jade Daniels. She lives in this town in Idaho, home to Camp Blood, the site of a massacre 50 years ago. And as of this summer, Terra Nova, a second home celebrity Camelot, is being carved out of this national forest. That's not the only thing that's getting carved up though. This, Jade knows, is the start of a slasher, but what kind? Who's wearing the mask? Jade's got an encyclopedic recall of every horror movie on the shelf, but will that help her survive? Can she get a final girl trained enough to stop this all from happening? Or does she even want to? Isn't a slasher exactly what her hometown deserves? Oh man. I have a feeling I'm really gonna love this. I'm hoping this has a lot of callbacks to my favorite horror movies, and I just loved reading that. I love talking horror movies, horror villains, horror heroines, storylines. Like, I love talking it. So a book that's just supposedly full of that, I can't wait. That's the first book on my TBR. And the next two are romances. I'm going to read You Again by Kate Goldbeck. I'm very curious about this one. You either love it or you hate it. This is about Ari and Josh. Ari is a struggling comedian. She likes to keep things casual and never sleeps over after hooking up. Josh is born and bred New Yorker, has ambitious plans to take on the culinary world by storm and find the one. They have absolutely nothing in common except that they happen to be sleeping with the same woman. Ari and Josh never expect their paths to cross again, but years later, as they're both reeling from ego-bruising breakups, a chance encounter leads them to surprising connection. Friendship. Turns out spending time with your former nemesis is fun when you're too sad to hate each other and too sad for hate sex. And that's all I'm going to read for that. This cover though. Someone told me to read this more towards New Year's, and it supposedly has When Harry Met Sally vibes, but like flipped, where she is like the more arm's length, pessimistic, romantic, and he is the more uplifting, like I want to find the one, I want love, I believe in love character. But yeah, I'm very excited to read this. It just sounds hopefully like a romance I would really jive with. So that is you again. And I bought this book months ago and I've been saving it to read it now. in fall weather, and that is Happy Medium. This is by Sarah Adler, who wrote Mrs. Nash's Ashes, which I have not read, but I've heard amazing things. And this has to deal with a con artist medium who, in order to get this very fat paycheck that she needs, goes to this supposedly haunted farmhouse to clear it up. Her name's Gretchen Acorn, which, that's it. That's all I need to know. I think there's a goat. Any romance that has a goat after part of your world, I'm in. I'm all in. And it finds out her employer is not this old man that she thought it's gonna be. It's this very hot, young man named Charlie Waybill, who is very unconvinced in Gretchen, that she's a medium and she can help in any way. To her surprise, Gretchen finds herself face to face with Everett, a very real, very chatty ghost who's been wreaking havoc during every open house. And he wants her to help ensure Charlie avoids the same family curse that's had Everett haunting Gilded Creek since the 1920s. Now Gretchen has 1 month to convince Charlie he can't sell the property. I think this would be a really cute, lighthearted, very easygoing fall read. I love the colors. It's just such a cute little book. And then we have If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio. I've wanted to read this for such a long time. I found this in a free little library. I think it's just meant to be. I know it's about Shakespeare, dark academia, some type of crime. That's all I know. And I don't even think I want to read the inside flap for this. Luke is currently in a Shakespeare play right now, and I like Shakespeare. Luke does not like Shakespeare. I do. I like his tragedies the most, and I don't know, I feel like I have a good grasp on Shakespeare, so hopefully I can enjoy this. Yeah, I think this is gonna be really fun. Dusty old books, Shakespeare inspired, rivals, I don't know, theater kids. I want to see some murderous theater kids. Next I have a horror book which has been recently released, but I wanted to save it until fall, and that is Incidents Around the House by Josh Malerman. I've read Daphne and Bird Box by Josh Malerman. I really enjoyed them. I think his stories are really fun and creepy, and this one too I've heard is very scary. I'll believe it when I read it because my tolerance, if that's the thing, if anyone holds up a book and said, this scared the crap out of me, this is the scariest book I've ever read, I'm gonna want to read it. Because I'm always on the hunt to be scared, because I think it's such a hard thing to do, especially in books. Movies, I feel like I still have a high tolerance, but I think it's really hard to scare me in book form. But this is about, I think it's all told, which I think is another reason why people haven't liked this. I think it's all through the perspective of an 8-year-old who tells her parents that there is another presence in this house who she calls Other Mommy, which is so... The malevolent entity who asks her every day, can I go inside your heart? When horrifying incidents around the house signal that Other Mommy is growing tired of asking Bella the question over and over, Bella understands that unless she says yes, her family will soon pay. So I think this is gonna be real fun. I loved Daphne, so I think if it's the same level of enjoyment that I got from Daphne and Bird Box, I think I'm in for a big treat. Oh, I'm so excited for this one. I've been putting this off again until fall. I bought this months ago because I've heard it's like Interview with a Vampire, more fantasy leaning. And if you like Bloodborne, you'd really like this book, which I'm on my second run through of Bloodborne. That game. Interview with a Vampire, Bloodborne, let's go. Empire of the Vampire by Jay Kristoff. The second book came out this year, and if I love this, probably gonna go buy that one, but I want a paperback. I want a big floppy paperback. I don't know why. This is like such a pet peeve of mine. I wish new releases would also be offered in paperback. I just prefer them so much more, especially when they're bigger books like this. Anyway, It has been 27 long years since the last sunrise. For nearly 3 decades, vampires have waged war against humanity, building their internal empire even as they tear down our own. Now only a few tiny specks of light endure in the sea of darkness. Gabriel de Leon is a silver saint, a member of a holy brotherhood dedicated to defending Roman Church from the creatures of the night. Even the Silver Order could not stem the tide once daylight failed us, and now only Gabriel remains. Imprisoned to the very monsters he vowed to destroy, the last silver saint is forced to tell his story. A story of legendary battles and forbidden love, of faith lost and friendships won, of the war of the blood and the forever king, and the quest for humanity's last remaining hope, the Holy Grail. I'm so unbelievably excited to read this. And I think it's all told, it's told very similar to Interview with the Vampire. Like, he is telling the story to whoever is listening. This cover is just so cool. I'm so pumped. I'm so pumped. This is a really long book. It's like over almost 700 pages, but I don't care. I'm gonna read it. I'm so excited. Okay, and then we have 2 fantasies left. One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. I've put this off for quite a while. I've seen it everywhere, and I'm like, I don't know if that sounds like it's for me. I don't know. Something about it just didn't sound like it would be for me, but I've seen so many booktubers, book talkers who tastes really mirror my own that I'm just like, okay, if you really loved it, I'm gonna try it. So this is a part of a duology. From what I know, this is about our main character, Elspeth Spindle. Needs more than luck to stay safe in an eerie, mislocked kingdom of blunder. She needs a monster. She calls him the Nightmare, an ancient mercurial spirit trapped in her head. He protects her, he keeps her secret. But nothing comes for free, especially magic. When Elspeth meets a mysterious highwayman on the forest road, her life takes a drastic turn. Thrust into the world of shadow and deception, she joins a dangerous quest to cure blunder of the dark magic infecting it. So I know the magic system is supposed to be really cool, like with, I think it's tarot card inspired, so that's very intriguing to me, and just how that's going to play out. Yeah, it just sounds super fun, and I would like a fun gothic type of fantasy to read this fall. The very last book I have to read, I actually pre-ordered this because it sounded right up my alley. It has been touted as a mix between Ninth House and The Cruel Prince, and that is Immortal Dark by Tigis Girma. This is the first book in a dark academia, black vampire trilogy, I think, series. A lost heiress, a soulless vampire, a secret drenched in blood. It began long before my time, but something has always hunted our family. Orphaned heiress Kidan Adene grew up far from the arcane society she was born into, where human bloodlines gain power through vampire companionship. Yeah. When her sister June disappears, Kidan is convinced a vampire stole her, the very vampire bound to their family, the cruel yet captivating Susanos Sagad. To find June, Kidan must infiltrate the elite Uxley University, where she must survive living with Susanos when he does everything he can to drive her away. It doesn't matter that his wickedness speaks to Kidan's own violent nature and tempts her to surrender to a life of darkness. She must find her sister and kill Susanos at all costs. So, I'm excited. I'm trying not to get too excited because I've been let down quite a few times by new releases this year. But I'm really hoping this will be as amazing as it sounds. So, that's Immortal Dark. That was my fall bucket list, my fall recommendations, and my fall TBR. And if you're still watching, thank you. What's on your fall TBR? Is there any book that you're really excited to get to in the spooky season? Let me know down below. I would love to know. And do you have any recommendations for me other than what I've listed? I would also love to know that. As always, thank you so much for clicking. Thank you so much for watching. And I'll have a new video for you soon. Bye!